Good afternoon, Trump's family. Welcome back to my channel. Have a good day, everyone, and God bless you. Alright, the following is a collection of news from Patriots. Let's get into the news. It looks like Adam Schiff and other Democrats, and of course the media, are absolutely furious over Republicans actually going to follow through and strip committee assignments from people like Adam Schiff, kicking him off Intel Agency Committee, kicking out Eric Swalwell off the committees, kicking Ilhan Omar off committees, just go down and less kicking these individuals off these committees. They can't be trusted with the nation's secrets via they've shown over and over they're more than willing to leak information in order to damage their political opponents. And they act shocked now when the Republicans who have retake control of the House of Representatives says these people are not going to serve on committees. They act shocked by it after they are the ones they initiated this. We said 2 years ago when this took place, when they kick Marjorie Taylor Greene off, when it kicked off other individuals from the Republican Party for committees, we said that you were going to rue the day that you've made this a precedent, and now it's coming to fruition, which is fantastic. We don't need any of these individuals near any of the government secrets, right? So let's go ahead and dive into this. Adam Schiff. One of the biggest slime balls in Congress is angry about being stripped of his precious Intel committee assignments. That's right. He is so angry about it and furious about it because you won't be able to get his grubby little hands on info any longer without it being illegal now. And he doesn't like that. He doesn't like that one bit. And of course, he went to the mainstream media whining about it. Adam Schiff is really angry about the possibility being removed from the Intel committee. Good. He doesn't need to be anywhere near it. Now that the Republicans are taking the House of Reps, there are very real possibility that Adam Schiff will lose his position in the House Intel Committee. Schiff is really unhappy about it. And that's just too bad. He talked about it on CNN this weekend. He said here on CNN, he says as with people in general, there are certain political figures who simply can't get out of their own way. In the case of California Democrat Adam Schiff, it's more likely he's intentionally tries to humiliate himself. Every time he opens his mouth, line now toss in his stage 4 TDs, and this guy is a real bundle joy. Schiff's latest illusion blabbering on CNN, of course, was in response to GOP House Leader Kevin McCarthy confirmation during November 20th segment on Fox News, that if he becomes Speaker det of the 118 Congress on January 3rd, he will remove Schiff, Omar, Swalwell from respective committee seats. So let it be said, so let it be done. Let's pass on the Menza twins, Omar and Swalwell, for now, but above the confirmation for Kevin McCarthy does not sit well with Schiff. So what did Schiff do? What he always does. Not only did he lie his rear end off, he concocted a ridiculous excuse hoping enough people would buy his nonsense. So here's Adam Schiff. Let's take a listen. Well, no. The man who was trying to be Speaker, a Republican, Kevin, says that he wants to kick you off the Intelligence Committee, that committee that you now chair because of your handling of the Trump-Russia investigation, and specifically that you repeatedly asserted that there was direct evidence of collusion, which didn't materialize. What's your response to McCarthy? McCarthy, who apparently doesn't think it's collusion if your campaign manager's giving insight polling data and battle strategy and in key states to an agent, Russian intelligence? Well, the Russians are helping your campaign, but most Americans would call that collusion. McCarthy's problem is not with what I've said about Russia. McCarthy's problem is he can't get to 218 without Marjorie Taylor Greene and Paul Gosar and Matt Gaetz. And so he will do whatever they ask. And right now they're asking for me to be removed from my committees, and he's willing to do it. He's willing to do anything they ask. And that's the problem. Kevin McCarthy has no ideology. He has no core set of beliefs. Is very hard only to get to 18. That way, it's even more difficult to keep to 18. That's his problem. So he will misrepresent my record. He'll misrepresent Eric Swalwell or Ilhan Omar, whatever he needs to do to get the votes of the Cuban caucus within his conference. Yeah, he's an absolute liar. And he deserves to be kicked off every committee, out of Congress, in prison. That is where Adam Schiff and many of these individuals belong. And I'm glad that Kevin McCarthy is going to follow through on this. But again, I believe when I see it, I still think Kevin McCarthy is not the best choice for leader, but we'll see how Congress votes on that. But if he does become leader, he needs to follow through on all of these promises in order to hold this out of control regime accountable for. And some significant news, President Trump just made a huge admission. We're going to check out the latest coming out of Arizona. We're going to see how at least one board of supervisors has certified the election results under duress. President Trump took the Truth Social yesterday to demand that Kari Lake be, in his words, installed as governor of Arizona. Trump wrote, quote, "Massive numbers of broken voting machines in Republican districts on election day. Mechanics sent in to fix them made them worse. Kari had to be taken to a Democrat area which was working perfectly to vote. Her opponent ran the election. This is yet another criminal voting operation so obvious Kari Lake should be installed governor of Arizona." No, President Trump made these comments as boards of supervisors in 6 counties prepared to meet the Monday deadline to certify the 2022 midterm election results. As of now, with 99% of precincts reporting, the Democrat Katie Hobbs leads Lake by approximately 17,000 votes. And because of a number of issues that Maricopa County officials admitted plagued election day voting, a number of supervisors are hesitant at certifying the election results, and unfortunately, at least one member has declared that he is certifying those results under duress. This is Mojave County Board of Supervisors Chair Ron Gould. Let's take a listen to what he said. "I vote aye under duress. I found out today that I have no choice but to vote aye or I'll be arrested and charged with a felony. I don't think that that is what our founders had in mind when they used the democratic process to elect our leaders or some form of self-government, and I find that very disheartening. But the vote of 4 ayes and 0 nays, you've approved item A1B. Anything else for the good of the order." Okay, so we're seeing how the game is played here, right? He's being made an offer he can't refuse. What's the Godfather line? You know, either your signature or your brains are gonna be on this contract. Right? Take your pick. Now all this is going on. The Attorney General's office is getting involved several days back. As many of you know, an official letter was sent from the Arizona Attorney General's office to Maricopa County officials demanding explanations for the myriad of election issues that raised significant questions as to the county's compliance with state election law. So we're talking broken tabulators led to long lines reportedly, voters turned away as a result. It led to voters being forced to trust that their vote could be counted fairly. The chairman of the Maricopa County elections originally claimed that 20% of voting machines were affected. That number has now reached, by some estimates, 60%, more than half the voting machines and 3 times what we were originally told, according to a memo drafted by an attorney who observed the voting process. Quote, "It seems very clear that the printer tabulator failures on election day at 62.61% of the vote centers observed by 11 roving attorneys and the resulting in long lines and a majority of all vote centers led to substantial voter suppression in Maricopa County. As a result, a number of counties have delayed the certification of their votes in protest for the, what do you want to call it, odd or incompetence, or maybe we should probably better call it willful incompetence on the part of Maricopa County election officials. So needless to say, Kari Lake has hardly conceded this race. She, along with the Republican Attorney General candidate Bay Hamida, have filed lawsuits against Maricopa County demanding that officials turn over the records about the various issues that voters were confronted with on election day throughout the county thus far. Maricopa County officials have refused to share that data with the Lake campaign, and so she's taking them to court. All the while, Hamida, who's only down by 500 votes, continues with his lawsuit to actually overturn the results, alleging that the mishandling of the election cost him the race regardless of what happens. There is something that is absolutely coming out of Arizona that will have massive ramifications and extraordinary negative impact against the permanent political class and may in fact be their ultimate downfall. Take a look at what's happening all over the world. In China, mass demonstrations against the CCP's draconian COVID policies have reached an all-time high in virtually every single city and college campus throughout the nation. In Brazil, we are now approaching the 1-month mark of non-stop protests against what they consider to be an obvious corruption of their presidential election. Tens of millions have taken to the streets throughout the nation. In fact, some are calling these demonstrations the single biggest demonstrations of any democratic nation in human history. We could go on and on. The Freedom Convoy in Canada, the mass demonstrations throughout Western Europe against both their COVID policies and the NATO insanity with Ukraine. Patriots like never before rising up, and they're pushing back against the permanent political class. It's a social dynamic that we've been talking a lot about lately. It's called what sociologists call delegitimation. And this promises to have the most long-lasting effects at eroding the power of globalist governments. What we have to understand is that the stability of any government rests on a concept that sociologist Max Weber referred to as legitimation. So for Weber, the only way a government can flourish apart from sheer totalitarianism, the only way a government long-term can flourish, is if it convinces the masses that it's worthy of their trust, that officials govern on behalf of the general welfare, that the powers that be are genuinely concerned about the public good and the good of the people. The moment the government is seen as corrupt and fraudulent and protective only the interests of the rich and powerful, the government goes through a process known as delegitimation. And the stability of the government begins to falter. And that is exactly what we're seeing in China, and Brazil, and Western Europe, and of course, increasingly here in the United States, whether the powers that be like it or not. Hundreds of millions of people around the world are outraged at their respective political systems that appear so gamed against them, and they're concerned. And as long as that outrage remains unassuaged, the very legitimation needed for a functioning and stable government is only going to erode all the more. Thank you very much. WWG1WGA. Give me your thoughts below and hit